It wasn't supposed to be the kind of night that sends Hollywood into a frenzy. Just another episode of Saturday Night Live, another set of monologues, and a handful of celebrity cameos. But when Ryan Reynolds strolled onto that stage, everything took a turn no one saw coming. The air practically crackled with tension as he tried to play it cool, ignoring the storm of ongoing lawsuits and controversies swirling around his personal life. Viewers at home had no clue they were about to witness a moment so cringe-inducing that it would dominate social media for days. In front of an all-star audience, Ryan decided to crack a joke referencing the scandal he was entangled in. Something about "everything's fine. Why? What have you heard?" You could almost feel the energy in the room short-circuit. Many in the crowd didn't know whether to laugh, gasp, or stare at their shoes. Even icons like Steven Spielberg were reportedly lowering their gaze, hoping not to be caught on camera in any awkward reaction shots. Meanwhile, Blake Lively, his partner and frequent collaborator in Hollywood power moves, watched it unfold with an expression so tense it could cut glass. And then came the real bombshell. Colin Jost, SNL mainstay and husband to Scarlett Johansson, decided to deliver a punchline that felt like it had been rehearsed 1,000 times in his head. It started as a predictable political joke, comparing two high-profile figures trying to patch up a doomed relationship. But then, out of nowhere, Colin pivoted, mentioning Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively in the same breath. Suddenly, it wasn't about politicians anymore. It was about a tangled Hollywood scandal, unresolved grudges, and the messy intersection of exes who all orbit the same circles. When that joke landed, you could practically hear millions of viewers inhaling sharply in unison. But that wasn't even half the story. While Blake tried to piece together a salvageable strategy for her crumbling lawsuit, Ryan added yet another layer of humiliation. During a casual interview, he joked, again, about the SNL meltdown, doubling down on his trademark humor. Normally, that comedic shield works wonders for him. His fans love the sharp wit he honed through Deadpool and years of talk show appearances. But this time, it felt tone-deaf. He quipped about how things are fine, how everyone's just overreacting, a typical comedic pivot. Except the atmosphere in Hollywood was anything but amused. Even among some of his loyal fans, frustration began to bubble over. If Ryan wasn't taking this seriously, did he even realize the magnitude of the damage? Every joke about the fiasco made it look like he cared more about preserving his jokester image than addressing the moral and legal issues swirling around them. Online discourse began to shift from mockery to genuine concern. People asked if Ryan was so used to deflecting with humor that he couldn't stop himself, even if that might doom him and Blake in the eyes of industry heavy hitters. The fiasco seemed to be evolving from a PR meltdown to a story about unchecked arrogance. A star so convinced of his ability to charm his way out of trouble that he didn't see the ground disappearing beneath him. Now, the couple stands on a shaky foundation, with powerful Hollywood insiders backing away and the public growing ever more skeptical. The clip with Colin's brutal one-liner went viral in record time. Within hours, millions were reposting snippets of the show, dissecting every raised eyebrow and subtle cringe. Overnight, an incident that might have stayed within the confines of showbiz gossip turned into the biggest celebrity meltdown of the moment. Headlines multiplied like wildfire. SNL destroys Hollywood's favorite power couple on live TV, Ryan Reynolds' painful onstage flop, and Blake Lively's nightmare unfolds in real time. Social media absolutely lit up. Fans who once adored Ryan and Blake for their playful social media banter started sounding disillusioned. Was it all an act? Had they merely been hiding massive cracks behind that witty, romantic facade? The footage from SNL played on loop, and every time, people noticed something new. Maybe it was the way Ryan forced a grin when Colin took aim, or the fleeting panic in Blake's eyes as she realized her carefully built public image had been demolished in seconds. Opinions flew in from all sides, but one consensus emerged almost instantly. This moment was far bigger than just a throwaway SNL gag. It felt like a turning point where the internet collectively decided to take a closer look at everything Ryan and Blake had been up to, particularly the rumor mill swirling around them, the lawsuits, and the hush-hush controversies they'd tried to keep under wraps. And the deeper people dug, the more disturbing it all became. Amid the furor, a new detail emerged that sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Blake Lively had allegedly hired a crisis manager with CIA credentials. Yes, Nick Shapiro, the same Nick Shapiro who'd once been involved in high-level intelligence operations, rumored to have played a role in controlling media narratives for powerful figures. The second the public made that connection, whispers of cover-up and media manipulation spread like a fever. Suddenly, the story turned from a messy onstage embarrassment to something far more sinister. Pundits and gossip gurus wondered, Why on earth would an A-list actress need an ex-CIA operative to do damage control? The narrative practically wrote itself. Maybe there were skeletons bigger than we realized. Maybe the couple had tried to bury secrets too large for a standard Hollywood publicist. Online forums erupted with conspiracies. Could Nick Shapiro's involvement imply government-level spin tactics aimed at rewriting the fiasco? The more people speculated, the more Blake's reputation took a hit. Even casual onlookers started feeling uneasy, like they were watching a slow-motion train wreck orchestrated by people who should know better than to let it spiral this badly. But while everyone pointed fingers at Blake, Ryan was about to make things even worse. When Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively first emerged as one of Hollywood's favorite couples, they seemed unstoppable. They had everything: box office success, fan admiration, and a playful dynamic that felt genuine. But after a single misstep on SNL, a barrage of questionable PR tactics, and a series of resurfaced moments that paint them both as deeply inconsistent, that once flawless image has taken a massive hit. Watching them scramble for damage control, hiring ex-CIA operatives, spinning minor legal updates as huge wins, contradicting themselves on matters of personal privacy, has left the industry shaken. If a couple as beloved as Ryan and Blake can see their empire buckle so quickly, what does that say about the foundations of celebrity culture? Are we witnessing the end of a glossy fairy tale? Or will they somehow stage a comeback and convince the world it was all a misunderstanding? One thing's for sure, the story isn't over yet. Hollywood might have a short attention span, but this fiasco has all the elements of an ongoing saga. Legal twists, awkward confessions, and the potential for even more bombshells if anyone else decides to speak up. Until then, the drama continues to unfold in real time, leaving fans and critics to debate whether Ryan and Blake can ever recover their former status, or if this scandal will linger as one of the biggest public unravelings in recent Hollywood history. Stay tuned, because there are whispers of even more revelations just around the corner. And if we've learned anything so far, it's that a single offhand remark can unleash chaos that's impossible to reel back in. Behind all the glitzy PR campaigns, there was an ongoing lawsuit involving Justin Baldoni, someone who'd been entangled in a financial and reputational mess with Blake. She accused him of shady behavior and worse. He fired back with claims of fabrication, insisting that no real evidence existed to support her allegations. The entire thing was a high-stakes legal back and forth, peppered with leaked documents, contradictory testimonies, and plenty of personal jabs. Initially, some Hollywood insiders quietly backed Blake. Her public persona had always been that of a poised, sophisticated star, the kind of actress who seemed too grounded for petty drama. But the SNL fiasco and the CIA-scale crisis management overshadowed any goodwill she might have had. The more suspicious her PR strategy looked, the more people started aligning with Justin. He suddenly seemed less like a shady operator and more like a guy who got caught in Blake's crosshairs. Even the press releases that declared Blake's big legal wins were quickly debunked in court documents that proved otherwise. Observers noted that while she was spinning minor procedural decisions as grand victories, the actual court rulings told a different story. Instead of looking triumphant, she came across as desperate to sway public opinion. And once the public senses desperation, it rarely goes away. That desperation spilled into her Hollywood relationships, and soon, it was obvious she might be fighting this battle alone. Just when the couple needed a low profile, an old interview clip of Ryan Reynolds reemerged, and it couldn't have been timed more disastrously. In the footage, Ryan joked about a situation where he got locked in a weird time warp, staring at a random mother breastfeeding her baby. He admitted he didn't know what to do and just kept on staring. The anecdote was meant to be funny, typical Ryan Reynolds comedic storytelling, but in the current context, it sent the internet into a frenzy all over again. Why? Because not long ago, Blake Lively had accused a colleague, James Heath, of making her uncomfortable by looking at her while she was pumping. She painted it as a deeply inappropriate invasion of her space. Yet here was Ryan, freely admitting he once stared at a stranger breastfeeding. The hypocrisy practically jumped off the screen. If it was supposedly traumatic for Blake when someone briefly glanced her way, how could Ryan's prolonged gawking possibly be okay? This contradiction hammered the final nail in their public image coffin. Suddenly, fans who once took Blake's allegations at face value started questioning everything. Had she exaggerated the seriousness of someone's passing glance? Or was she fine with this kind of behavior if it was her husband doing it? Either way, the backlash was brutal, and it cast doubt on the sincerity of Blake's previous claims. With each new revelation, the internet's army of investigators and Hollywood's own rumor mills kicked into hyperdrive. Every interview, every slip of the tongue, and every curious coincidence became fodder for fresh theories. Some speculated that behind closed doors, Blake was pressing hard to bury any mention of hypocrisy or contradictory claims, deploying Nick Shapiro's expertise to handle it with government-level efficiency. But the trouble with such aggressive spin is that it often backfires. The more squeaky clean, glowing headlines popped up. Blake lively triumphs in court, or Hollywood rallies behind Blake. The more people saw through it. Within days, fact-checkers and fans alike found that these so-called triumphs were half-truths or downright false. Observers noted that her lawsuits were going nowhere fast, and some legal experts even suggested she was the one with the weaker case. Suddenly, the power couple with the perfect brand, known for philanthropic work, witty online banter, and mutual adoration, looked like they'd do anything to salvage their reputations. That includes rewriting the narrative so blatantly that even non-legal experts could tell something was off. In the court of public opinion, the verdict seemed to be that if they were innocent, they wouldn't need an ex-CIA fixer to plaster the media with questionable spins on the truth. But the moment that truly sealed their fate was still to come. One of the biggest red flags in Hollywood is when people who worked alongside you, the very actors who should sing your praises, suddenly go radio silent or serve up nothing but vague, empty statements. That's exactly what started happening with Blake's associates, fellow cast members who'd once happily given interviews about how wonderful it was to be on set, with her now answered questions about Blake, with carefully choreographed neutrality. Brandon S. was cornered by a reporter, asked a softball question about supporting Blake during this difficult period, and all he could muster was, "It's a tough situation." That was it. No personal anecdotes, no glowing praise, not even a hint that he believed she was in the right. He looked like someone who'd been told to keep his distance for the sake of his own career. Meanwhile, Paul F. offered lukewarm compliments about Blake being a talented collaborator, just enough to not sound dismissive, but nowhere near an impassioned defense. That told insiders everything. Nobody in Hollywood wanted to be caught on the wrong side of this. They sensed the momentum was shifting, and they weren't about to risk their own projects or reputations by going down with a sinking ship. But if Blake and Ryan thought distancing themselves from co-stars would help them save face, they had another thing coming.